Anthony, when you figured out how to unmute yourself, and you could join. Then I'll put you on mute. And even when Khalil, turn down your YouTube. Turn the volume down on your YouTube. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
How's everything, Akhi? Where are you tuning in from?
Atlanta. Atlanta.
What do you have for us? You have a question, comment, concern, or you wanted to add something to the discussion?
I just in cooperating with Brother Ishmael. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. What Brother Ishmael said. Him and I, we talk sometimes about this subject, and I was just saying, first of all, may Allah reward all you guys for this discussion because it is timely, it is needed. The aspect of him and I talking about business, I was just wanted to say the weekly sadaqah at the masjid is not a sustainable concept. That whole ideal has to be unlearned and relearned. There has to be some sort of economic component attached to the masjid. There has to be some type of income generating initiative established for all the masjids, because you can sit back, and I've been on administrations of masjids, and you have 70 brothers at Juma, and the brother be in the office counting sadaqah, and he may count up $200. And then the imam has to run around all week contacting businessmen and other people to help sustain the weekly bills at the masjid. That is not realistic. That cannot work. And it's a recipe for failure for masjids. You have to have some sort of people that come together and say, listen, here what we're going to do. We're going to establish this business, and the income, the net proceeds from this business will facilitate for the masjid, because and there has to be a learning, because what happens is like I tell Ishmael a lot, brothers come to the masjid and they come in, and like you said, there's an economic component to everything. Like when you come in the masjid and that wudu you make, most masjids have water bills, right? Those paper towels that you dry with the wudu, a lot of times when you keep hitting that button and it keep dropping and dropping and dropping, and you got around 2 feet of paper towel to dry with the wudu, there's an economic component to that. When you come during the summertime and there's AC to keep you comfortable during the class in the Juma, there's an economic component to that. When you come in the winter and there's heat to keep you comfortable for Juma in the class, there's an economic component to it. That carpet that needs to be cleaned and vacuumed, there's an economic component to that. There's nothing when you walk into the masjid that you cannot think of economics. So yes, you coming in there for the spiritual attainment and you trying to rectify yourself in your relationship with Allah, but you have to also think of that. So for the Muslim man, the level of our dialogue has to mature and it has to raise in order for us to, when we walk in that masjid, to think of that also. Because if you walk into a masjid and you don't, and the lights ain't on, or there's no AC in the summertime, or there's no heat in the wintertime, or there's no water to make wudu, the complaints will pour. And so you ask the brothers, what have you contributed to these things sustaining themselves? Those have to be real conversations. We have to pull each other together as men and look each other in the eye and say, are we doing our level best to make sure that our communities are sustainable? And one thing is that weekly sadaqah box. If we try to use that as our go-to plan, that's why so many masajid either close down, the imam's salary ain't getting paid. Something is, it's a rob Peter to pay Paul situation all over the African-American Muslim community. So that is what I need to say, that we have to, with the brothers, when they come together, that weekly sadaqah program, man, that has to be not the plan. It can be an assistance, but that as the plan, listen to me, I'm telling you, all over the country that I see people do that, it's a recipe for failure, and you're going to have masjid closed signs all over the country if we keep going to that. So the aspect of business and economic collaboration amongst Salafi, Ahlul Sunnah community, whatever terminology we want to utilize, it has to be a constant conversation. We have to start talking about that, because nothing that we do is there's no economic component to it. And so, like Ishmael told me one time, we have to say, yeah, nothing is for free. There's nothing for free, you know. And so at the end of the day, we have to think of how are we going to create environments that we can start living some of these things that we talk about. Right. How do we create environments to where our children can actually practice some of these aspects? So when I get my alert on Salafi Inc., right, and I see all of these beautiful classes that come up, and you listen to it and you feel good about it, and you feel nostalgic at the moment, how do we take that from those abstract concepts, right? Like Ishmael say, for the brothers who have been overseas, and I've made Umrah and I've made Hajj, and you feel good. But now you come back to Brooklyn, right? You come back to Queens, you come back to Atlanta, you come back to Harlem. That's not your reality, right? You got to walk past Shaquita with the shorts on, right? You got to walk past the dudes hustling. You got to walk past all of these different fitness that you deal with daily. So you say to yourself, how do I now take all of these good things that I read in the books and the statements of the Bashag and these classes that you brothers have dedicated your lives to give to us? How do we now take that and create environments that we can live in, where our wives feel comfortable, where our children feel comfortable? Because see, what's happening is that we're also not talking how we're losing generations of kids in these public schools, right? Because like the brother Khalifa said, right? You got 4 kids, right? And that tuition hitting at $550, $600 a month, right? So now we at a deuce a month, $2,000 a month, and you trying to say most people, right? Most brothers can't afford that, especially if he's the main provider in his household. So he making $1,000 a week after taxes, right? He bringing in 800. See, that's what I'm saying. We got to talk numbers as men. So you say he making $1,000 a week. He bringing in 800 and something dollars a week. Now you want to know why that weekly sadaqah ain't popping, right? Because I'm telling you, this is the reality. He's making $1,000, $1,200 a week, and that's with a fairly decent job. He got a wife and 2 kids. She's not working. His rent is $1,200 a month, and that's at this day and time, $1,200 a month. He's not even living in a good neighborhood. So say if he stretch it out at $1,400 a month, we just set that right there. So now after he bring home, he might be bringing home $1,600, $3,200 a month after taxes. So now we ain't even talking about that food bill, because now the cost of inflation, right? Everything is going up. So if he's trying to eat somewhat healthy and may have a little bit of organic mixed in with a little bit of this, his food bill is about another $1,200 a month, right? So we ain't even so just his bare necessities drains his paycheck. So then the man gets up on a roster and talking about, yo, we got the light bill, this, that, and third. And he like, bruh, my PSC and G do. This Masjid, they gotta wait. My Con Edison do. You understand what I'm saying? I got 2 kids in the Muslim school. That's due. So the weekly it's not sustainable, because we got to realize that the majority of the men in our community are not 6-figure earners. That's a reality. So that's all I'm saying, man. Like, if we don't have these real conversations with each other, right, and just look at each other and say, this is our reality, and it's cool, this is where we at. How do we get past that? So now we have all of these conversations and we have these classes. There has to be some type of business and economic training within the Muslim men community, teaching brothers how to earn and build wealth lawfully, right, as the previous righteous generations did before us, right? Those generations that we so highly say that we follow in their aqidah, in their minhaj, right? But also in their business practices. And as I close, I was reading Umar's biography, right? And it was in volume 1, the two book biography. And he was walking through the souk when he was the leader. And he asked the companion, I forgot who it was who he was with, he said, who are all of these people here in handling the business affairs? And the person told him who they were. I mean, we know this is this one, this, and third one. And most of them were not Muslim men that were in the marketplace handling the affairs. And Umar told the person he was walking with, he said, I don't like this. He said, if we don't get more involved, our women will eventually end up depending on them. And so I just think that's a pull-up. When I read that, it resonated with me. So when we talking about these generations, let's not leave off their business acumen, their ability to, like I told Ishmael, when you read them, you become intimidated and motivated at the same time, because you see how complete they were as human. Like, they were not only spiritual and scholarly, but they were warriors. They were businessmen. They were just the complete human being, like that complete Muslim life you talking about. Like, they walk that walk and talk that talk. So I just think that that's just a reality that we're not focusing on as much as we should be. And that's why the problems that we have, we keep talking about them, because we are not more solution oriented in that regard. And I don't know whether or not we fear it or not, but these venues and these conversations that you brothers are having, they have to keep being had and move. It will push the envelope to us as the layman to be like, yo, these are some issues that we need to start thinking about too. And so may Allah rectify affairs and put us in a position to where we can actually take this from the Zoom, to the room, and eventually into the community, inshallah.
Barakallahu fiqh for your comment, Khalil. And I have to say, I definitely agree with everything that you said. And unfortunately, one of the reasons why I decided to have this conversation is because, unfortunately, I really don't see the conversation being had. I really don't see the conversation being had like that on a real large scale level. But Barakallahu Fiqh, man, I appreciate you tuning in. I'm going to bring in the other brother, Anthony, and I don't know if any of the brothers have a take on what the brother said.
May Allah reward the brother for his input. Alhamdulillah, it was valuable.
Ameen.
And we have to start moving towards, as the brother mentioned, the solutions to the problems. Of course, having the conversations, bringing things to the forefront of the minds of the people, highlighting matters, pointing out affairs. But we definitely have to start implementing the solutions, starting with our individual communities and coming together, as the leaders of these communities, and seeing, what can be done on a larger scale. I think one of the things that we need to start doing as imams and teachers, we definitely need to start teaching classes dealing with Islamic economics. Alhamdulillah, we're going to teach Kitab al-Tawheed. We're going to teach the 3 fundamental principles. We're going to teach Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. We're going to teach those books, and we're never going to stop teaching those books. But we need to start incorporating into our classes books that focus on Islamic economics. I mean, as far as I know, I don't know if anyone can correct me. I don't know of any masjid right now where the imam is teaching a class on Islamic economics. I'm just being honest. And I'm guilty of it myself, And I have books in my house, in my library, on the topic. We have to start cracking these books and getting this information to the people and start motivating the people, to get on the move. So may Allah reward the brother Khalil for the input. I'm grateful for him chiming in. And may Allah Azza wa Jal protect him and his family. Ameen.